What's up, my friends, and welcome into the PHLY Phillies podcast. As always, we are broadcasting live from the Xfinity Lounge here at the PHLY studios, and we are brought to you by our friends over at Bet365. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Use that promo code PHLY365, deposit $10, place a bet for $5, and now get $300 in bonus bets back, whether your bets win or loses. Find out why it's never ordinary at Bet365. What's up, everybody, and a happy Monday afternoon to you. It is the start of another work week, and unfortunately one with some bad news. No update, but the bad news coming out of yesterday's game, of course, is that Trea Turner exited the game with what is being perceived as a right hamstring strain. And we'll talk about that because we got to talk about how this affects the team in the short term, how it affects the Phillies' postseason aspirations, and how it affects Trea Turner specifically and his game for the remainder of the season. Hello to everybody. Tyler Zula here, and a happy Monday again to you. I hope you all had a wonderful weekend. I would love to be able to start today's show talking about the Phillies taking another series. They did what they were supposed to do. Yesterday's game was what it was. Taijuan Walker had a really difficult first inning. His first inning numbers in the last couple of weeks specifically, but really over the whole year to be exact, and his starts have not been particularly sharp. We'll talk a little bit more about them in a little bit, but I would love to have been able to come on today and say, yeah, they lost yesterday, but I love the fight that they showed offensively. They got down big early. Walker really struggled. He battled in, got himself through 5 innings, was much better in the latter stages of his start than he was in the first start. Command got better. Control got better. The stuff moved a little bit more. And I'd love to be able to talk about that because even though they lost yesterday, I will say it was a fight that I was proud of towards the end. They scored late. They had the tying run just 90 feet away with their best hitter or one of their best hitters in Bryce Harper up at the plate and an opportunity to potentially tie the game. They saw a lot of pitches in the 9th inning. They did a good job of waiting it out. The reliever for the Marlins did not have a whole lot of control. Phillies did a good job. I thought bunting Bryson Stott probably in that situation wasn't a great idea, but hindsight's being 20/20, of course. He pops up. They don't move the runners. But all of that to say, I'd love to be able to come on and talk about the series where they took 2 of 3 and where the offense looked really good on Friday night and the pitching staff looked really good on Saturday night. And instead, we have to start with the injury to Trea Turner. Trea Turner, late in the game yesterday, busting it down the line, trying to beat out an infield base hit as he has done so many times this year, ends up beating out the throw because the throw is errant, but he immediately, as soon as the play is ruled dead, immediately, without hesitation, without calling over Paco Figueroa, without calling over the training staff, the athletic training staff, without calling over anybody, he just turned and booked it to the dugout. And when you see a player do that, it's never a good thing because that is an indication that not only is he hurt, but he knows he's hurt. Now, of course, you know you're hurt more times than not. I'm not sitting here and saying, well, he didn't know he had an ankle injury or a foot injury or a hand injury. But it was one of those situations where he beelined right back to the dugout and you went, oh, no, not Trea, not now. Not with the way that Trea Turner's been playing, not as close to the postseason as this team is. And they're calling it a hamstring injury. And I've said this many times about hamstring injuries. Trea Turner's hamstring last year, Bryce Harper's hamstring earlier in the season. These things are so fickle. They're so difficult to determine. And they're so hard to decide what a proper return to play is and when you can go full bore. Because you might wake up one day and feel okay. And you say, let me test it out. But you might also wake up one day and go, I can't barely walk. My leg hurts. My hamstring is tight. There's a lot of pain shooting down the top of my leg or whatever it might be. They're really fickle injuries to deal with. And they are ones that are just almost purely rest and rehab, right? It's really difficult to play through it. It's really difficult to understand on any one given day or one given week or one given series how you're going to be able to respond to that injury. And that is the concerning part about Trea Turner's hamstring injury. There's no indication that this is long-term, short-term, 2 weeks, 1 week, the rest of the season. None of that. There's going to be a follow-up today. We'll find out more information probably in the next couple of hours. But the reality is Trea Turner is going to at least miss the beginning portion of the Mets series. That I would be almost assured. I would almost assuredly tell you. And that is where their concern lies, is how long could this go? And that brings up today's big deal segment, which is brought to you by our friends over at Cherry Hill Mitsubishi. If you're looking for the most affordable 7-passenger SUV in America, CherryHillMitsubishi.com has you covered with a 2025 Mitsubishi Outlander. Of course, head online 24/7 or head on over to the Bridges. Shop Cherry Hill. Their complex is incredible. So last year, Trea Turner suffered a hamstring injury, and I'm not going to compare them other than giving you a time frame and a statistical understanding of what he was doing post-return to give you a clue as to maybe what could happen. Because again, hamstrings are so difficult to determine. Last year, when he suffered a hamstring injury, he missed about 6 weeks. He injured his hamstring on May 3rd, missed the game on May 4th, did not return until June 17th. That was a 38-game sample size that Trea Turner missed with his hamstring injury last year. Now, it could be the same problem. It could not be. Unfortunately, again, as I said at the top of the show, we're just going to have to play kind of a wait-and-see approach and how bad of a strain it actually is. Now, if this injury is significant, I would imagine that probably puts the last 19 games of the regular season in jeopardy. Plus, what does the postseason look like? I'm going to say this. If there's any imagination, any chance that Trea Turner can give it a go a couple days before the regular season ends or at the postseason, he's going to do it. The postseason is right around the corner. We are less than 3 weeks away from the end of the Phillies' regular season. In fact, 3 weeks from tomorrow, the regular season will be over. They play 19 games in the next 20 days, and it's really going to be a gauntlet for this team. I would imagine they are going to try to slow play Trea Turner for the next week, the next 2, maybe even the remainder of the season, with a hope that he's able to ramp back up quickly come postseason time. He'll do everything in his power to get back into the postseason lineup, but I do think that it begs the question, what type of player is Trea Turner going to be when he returns from the injury? Now, last year, as I said, he missed 36 games. He missed about a month and a half's worth of time. It was 6 weeks. And when he returned offensively for the rest of June and into July, Trea Turner didn't really miss a beat in terms of batting average. He hit .302 in June. He hit .292 in July. He had 44 hits in that month and a half stretch between his return and through the All-Star break. He was really good in that month and a half span. Things took a dip into August, into September, into the postseason, as it did for a majority of the Phillies lineup. His chase rates went up, his whiff rates went up, his hard hit percentages went down, his exit velos went down. Trea Turner was not the same player post-hamstring injury, even after he returned and played fairly well for the remainder of June and into the second half of the season, into July. But I will say this. What really hampered Trea, or what was hampered by Trea Turner's hamstring injury post his return, was his base running. Trea Turner is an elite base runner. He is in the 99th percentile of sprint speed. He is a stolen base machine. He is the type of guy who is a damage creator when he is on the bases. First to third, second to home, first to home and a ball hit in the gap. Somebody you have to think about on the bases all the time. There's no question about it. When Trea Turner is healthy and on the bases consistently, like he's been for a majority of this season, Trea Turner is as effective of a base runner as there is in all of Major League Baseball. In fact, his stolen bases this year ranked 5th in all of baseball. We'll get to his numbers in just a second. But after his return from that hamstring injury last season, his stolen base numbers went way down. He didn't steal a single bag in the second half of June. He stole only 3 in July. Post All-Star break, he only had 7. So the point is, if Trea Turner misses time, significant time, whether it is a week, 2 weeks, the rest of the regular season, into the postseason, if or when he does return, I don't know what type of base runner he is going to be compared to the guy that he was pre-hamstring injury, which is to say one of the legitimate elite base runners in all of baseball. He's efficient, right? He's efficient at the base paths, on the base paths in terms of taking the extra bag. He's efficient in stolen base numbers. He's got 36 of them this year in a pretty good sample size. He doesn't get caught very often. Again, first to third, second to home. He is that guy that is going to take the extra bag for you and set the table at the top of the lineup. And as Futz points out, if I'm playing that light speed lineup that I talked about just a week ago, he's kind of the dude. Like, Not a guy, he's the guy in that particular lineup, the one that features him and Stott and Sosa and all those guys. Like, if you're trying to be as efficient as you possibly can on the bases, this is a significant loss in terms of bases, in terms of base stealing and base running. So what does it mean for the numbers? Let's first take a look at Trea Turner's season numbers to tell you where he's at to this point. This is what Trea Turner has done so far in 140 games. By the way, he leads the National League with 587 at-bats. As soon as he's taken over as the Phillies' everyday leadoff hitter, he has become that spark plug at the top of the lineup that they were looking for. They got it from a little bit from him at the beginning of the season, got it a little bit from Bryson Stott at the beginning of the season, but since he's taken over as the everyday leadoff hitter, that guy that Rob Thompson can write in pen in the number one spot at shortstop almost every single game, he has been as electric as they come. This season, you see 305, 356 on base percentage. That's a little low. He's not walking a ton, but his batting average makes up for it. Well above not well above 300, but above 300. Slugging 458 with an 815 OPS, which that 800 number was something that we talked about for a really, really long time with this team when Bryce Harper and Kyle Schwarber were the only players on the Phillies lineup who had a plus 800 OPS. Trea Turner has since joined them because he's been so good in the extra base hit department. You see it down the bottom. 15 home runs, that's a good number for him. If he gets 15 to 20 in a season, I'm happy at this point. Just shy of 70 RBI, but the 53 extra base hits really stands out. Comes back to the base running thing, right? Guy who can take an extra bag, guy who can turn a single into a double, can turn a double into a triple type of thing. And that number down at the very bottom there was a big one. His average since the All-Star break, 337, and 21 of those 53 extra base hits have come since the All-Star break, which is a sizably less amount of games than it was pre-All-Star break. He has been the absolute catalyst. He's been everything for this team in terms of setting the table for Kyle Schwarber, for Bryce Harper, for JT Realmuto at the top of the lineup, who had been really good in the four-hole. And then, as we talked about, when you wrap around at the bottom of the lineup with guys like Bader or Sosa or Stott, and you go back to Turner, creates elite speed on the base pass, that's where your havoc starts to get wrecked, and that's where you start to be able to put crooked numbers on the board because you have a legitimate base stealing threat and base running threat at 7, 8, 9, and then back up to 1, where your big boppers and Schwarber and Harper come up. So how good of a season across Major League Baseball is Trea Turner having? It's elite. Here is the numbers in comparison to the rest of the league for some of Trea Turner's stats across Major League Baseball, specifically in the National League this season. That 305 average is good for first across Major League Baseball. 107, across first in the National League, it's fourth in Major League Baseball. Only Aaron Judge, Jacob Wilson, Bo Bichette have better batting averages, qualified players than Trea Turner. 178 hits, again, is first in the National League. Only Bo Bichette has more hits than Trea Turner's 178. He's second in the National League in steals, as we brought up, with 36. Only Oneil Cruz has more in the National League, and only 4 players across Major League Baseball have more, including Chandler Simpson, Jose Caballero, and Jose Ramirez. And then the last thing down at the bottom is what makes Trea Turner so dangerous this season. We talked about the sprint speed. He's in the 99th percentile. And then the outs above average. Defensively, this has been, without question, Trea Turner's best defensive year as a member of the Phillies by a lot. This has clearly been his best defensive year. The metrics tell you that. Your eyeballs tell you that. The last 2 seasons, Trea Turner was second in Major League Baseball at errors at the shortstop position. Only Oneil Cruz had more, and the Pirates have since moved Oneil Cruz at least part-time to the outfield, and it's probably where he's going to end up staying. Only Oneil Cruz had more errors at shortstop than Trea Turner over the last 2 years. This year, however, he's been like seismically better defensively than he had been over the last 2 seasons for the Phillies. He's in the 99th percentile of fielding range and OAA, as we just said. He has a 16. That is good for 9th in all of baseball, and it's 4th among shortstops. If you like OAA, that's a great stat. If you like fielding run value, which is a number that I prefer to use, he's 16th in all of baseball with a 10. Only 3 other shortstops have better run values than him, and only 5 middle infielders as a whole have better run values than Trea Turner's 10, which is unbelievable when you think about the fact, when you think of the OAA last year, It's a seismic difference. He was a -3. This year, he's a 16. The year before, he was a -6. This year, he's a 16. Whatever Trea Turner, the work that he's done in the offseason to get right, and I think health has played a part into it. His range has been sizably better. His ability to go both left and right have been really, really good. And he's limited the throwing errors as well. Like, he doesn't have the strongest arm in the world, but he's not sailing and he's not skipping nearly as much as he did in the previous 2 seasons. So defensively, Trea Turner is going to be a huge loss if he misses a lot of time as well. Now, I trusted Mundo Sosa, no doubt about it. He's a very good defensive shortstop. That's who I expect is going to get a bulk of the shortstop innings. You'll probably have to see Bryson Stott play against lefties unless they decide they want to utilize Weston Wilson at second base, which I wouldn't do, but I guess you could if you really wanted to. Against, left-handed pitching, I guess you technically could do it. I wouldn't do it, but you could if you wanted to. But my guess is going to be, it's going to be a lot of Sosa at short and Bryson Stott at second base against lefties and righties. And Sosa's just going to have to step up against righties, and Stott's just going to have to step up against lefties, and they're just going to have to figure this thing out for whatever time period that Trea Turner is out of the lineup. And it could be a couple days, right? They could get the MRI back, the imaging back today, and say minor strain. We're going to sit him out through the remainder. He won't play in the Mets series. We'll reevaluate heading into the weekend series this weekend against the Royals. That would be great. If that's the case, that would be awesome. Is it the Royals this weekend? I think it's the Royals this weekend. It's either the Royals this weekend or next weekend. The Royals this weekend. That would be great. And hey, even if they said to me or said to us, he's not going to play until next Monday. We're going to hold him out this whole week. He's going to sit the Mets series. He's going to sit the Royals series. And we'll reevaluate when we head to LA and we hit the road trip for LA and Arizona. That would be fine too. I would have no issue with that. If it's going to be 2 weeks or 3 weeks or, forbid heading into the postseason, somebody's going to have to step up. And I think the reality is it's likely going to be Edmundo Sosa at short, Bryson Stott at second, pretty much every day. Yes, you have 4 games against the Mets coming up beginning tonight. We'll talk a little bit more about that on the other side. But again, that's our big deal segment brought to you by our friends over at Cherry Hill Mitsubishi. Head on over to cherryhillmitsubishi.com for the most affordable 7-passenger SUV in America. It's the 2025 Mitsubishi Outlander. Before we hit our first break, I do want to take this opportunity to say, again, September is an important month, not just for us here because of a playoff push, not just because the Eagles start, but September is an important month for our friends with Big Brothers and Big Sisters. And Big Brother, Big Sister's been around for 120 years. That's right. They have been around since 1905. That is an incredible time to take a moment to build a moment, to take a moment to build resilience, to take a moment to build lasting memories. And the reason that they've been able to be around for 120 years is because of people like you, not just because of donations, but because of volunteerism as well. If you have some free time and it's something that you're passionate about, something that means a lot to you, maybe you were at one point a brother or a sister, maybe at one point you had a big and they made a positive impact on your life. If you have the time and the ability to donate some time and some commitment to become a big brother or a big sister, it's a hugely important charitable cause. It means a lot to us here at PHLY. And if you could take some extra time, if you have that available in your day or in your week, becoming a big is such a monumental movement. And we're partnering with our friends over at Big Brother, Big Sister all month long to raise awareness and to continue 120 more years of incredible, impactful events and life-changing people. Because it's people like you that continue to help Big Brother and Big Sister move forward. All right, let's pause. On the other side, we are going to get into how do the Phillies replace Trea Turner, at least in the short time, and then more so maybe into the postseason if it does get to that point. I have a lineup construction that doesn't seem like me. And when I say that, I'll explain more on the other side. You kind of know what type of lineups constructions I like, what type of guys I like at the top of my lineup. Just hear me out on this one. I have one that might change your opinion. Then, of course, we're going to get into the Mets series. We'll talk about what it means and what a series against these 4 games are going to do for the outlook of the NL East, the outlook of the 2 seed, and how many games the Phillies have to win to really kind of put this thing on ice. And then we'll wrap up today's show with a conversation about Jesus Luzardo, because he's a guy that I still have a lot of trust in, and I'll tell you why later in the show. It's the PHLY Phillies podcast. We are broadcasting live from the Xfinity Lounge here at the PHLY studios. We are brought to you by our friends over at Bet365. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. We'll be right back after this. All right, speaking of our friends at Xfinity, how about this? The other day, you're hanging out with your buddy, you're getting ready to watch some baseball. Maybe you're going to go split screen, right? Sunday afternoons now, it's baseball, it's football, whatever it might be. You go split screen and you want that experience. You want that sportsman experience. But your friend's setup is just a total mess. It's lagging, it's buffering. You switch between apps trying to find the game, and then you end up missing the first couple of innings of yesterday's game, and all of a sudden you look up and it's like, whoa! It's 5-0. What happened? Or it's 4-0. What happened? That's because, your big fan, quote unquote, ends up fan fishing you, right? See, if you call yourself a baseball fan, you got to get Xfinity. It's the ultimate sports destination. You can find all of the best games, your favorite teams, and it's all in one spot. And the way that I watch, the way that you can watch, that's next level. It is the perfect fan flex. It's got all the action right in your living room. Plus, Xfinity's best picture and sound with enhanced 4K, so clear, it's going to feel like you're right down there at CBP. Sometimes you got 4 games on at once. Again, that split screen box comes in handy when it comes to college football, the pro baseball. It all happens at once this time of year. You can go split screen because why not? And on top of that, you get real-time notifications and live stats right on your TV. It is the best seat in the house every time. So next game day, make sure that big fan isn't a big fail. Head on over to Xfinity.com. Xfinity, imagine that. Restrictions do apply. Multi-view requires Xfinity 4K capable TV box. Again, Xfinity.com for all of the details. All right, let me tell you about our friends over at Bet365 because whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Find out why 90 million users worldwide have been able to live stream 780,000 events each and every year. And they do so across 78 different sporting platforms. Yeah, you can get in on baseball, football, hockey, basketball, college, and pro. But how about stuff across the pond? How about stuff halfway around the world? You can do it all right on the palm of your hand with Bet365. And of course, new users right now, sign up using the code PHLY365, deposit $10, place a bet for $5, and it's the most generous offer they've ever had. $300 back in bonus bets, whether your bet wins or loses. Those bets can be used on spreads, totals, player props, futures, and so much more. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 and physically located in PA. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, please call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, welcome back to the PHLY Phillies podcast. Hello to everybody in the chat. Big thank you to John Peace, Molly and Barkley's Life, Peter Tom Willis, Futz, Elephant in the Room. Who else did I miss? Jaden. Hello to everybody here. Thank you so much for being a part of today's show. Really appreciate it. Yes, unfortunate news, of course, with the Trea Turner injury. Interesting timing, of course, that Aidan Miller was promoted once again recently. And so was Aaron Escobar, by the way. Aaron Escobar was also promoted this week. 2 of the Phillies' premier shortstop prospects. Excuse me. And I'm going to say this. I don't think Aidan Miller gets called up. I think it would be an awesome story to see the kid get an opportunity to get some Major League at-bats. I don't think it's going to happen. I think it's just too early. I think while he settled in really nicely at Reading, he struggled at the beginning of the year, right? Was playing guys that were 2 and 3 years his senior, found his footing recently, was hitting the ball hard, was playing really good defense, and deserved of a promotion at this juncture to go up to AAA. And I think he's close to being a Major League player. And when I say close, I mean probably in the next 2-ish years. And maybe more closely than that. But I don't think at this current juncture it's wise for his development or this team for Aidan Miller to be called up to the Major League level. And I get it, right? There's the argument always is every other team calls up people when they're 20 and 21 and 22 and they produce, right? And that's true. There's no question about it. The Phillies do tend to lack in the conversation of calling up their prospects at a young age if they seem like they're ready. And I feel that way about Justin Crawford. I think Justin Crawford should have been a major leaguer 4 months ago. Now, the platoons have seemingly worked. Kepler has made himself better. Marsh has made himself better. Bader has been a huge boost, even with Castellanos struggling, right? Like, I think that they waited this thing out long enough for those guys to figure it out. And good on them, right? A bunch of professionals. I love what Max Kepler did at least in, they said in the interview Rob Thompson had with Scott Fransky the other day, like Kepler called everybody together and said, listen, dudes, Like, yes, it's a platoon. Yes, it sucks, but like, we're going to try to win a championship, but this is the best way to do it. Like, I'm good against righties. You're good against lefties. You play better defense. You're a good base runner, all this stuff. That's accountability, and I love that stuff. That's great work by Kepler, who I think was about to be run out of town by most of us. For him to bounce back the way that he did and take some leadership, that's huge. I love it. But even with that said, like, I do think Justin Crawford should have been a major leaguer probably 3 or 4 months ago. I don't feel that way about Aidan Miller just yet. And I know, like, again, you've watched young guys come up recently. You've watched Jacob Wilson. You've watched Nick Kurtz. You've watched Mizorowski and Burns and Bubba Chandler and all of these guys, right? Like the prospect for the Rays, excuse me, I'm blanking on his name, the speedster, Chandler, I apologize, I'm blanking on his name, Chandler Simpson. Like, you've seen these young guys come up and contribute. There's no question about it. But I think it's one of those situations that if you're going to call one of those young guys up, 20, 21, 22-year-old, they have to play, or at least close to play every day. And in that particular instance, I just don't think Aidan Miller's going to play every day, and I don't think it's a good idea for him to come up right now. I think the promotion was warranted, no question about it. He's deserved it, especially with the back half of the season that he's had. But I think him playing in AAA for the remainder of the year, starting the season in AAA next year, he may play the entire year in Lehigh Valley next season too. I think his timeline probably sits about 2027, and I'm totally okay with that. But I think in this particular instance, I've seen a lot of people talk about giving Aidan Miller a shot. I don't think I'm ready for that just yet. But the question that was posed in the chat was, what's your ideal top 5 in the order with Trea Turner out? And that comes from Jaden. And Jaden, you actually get me into my next conversation piece heading into this second segment, which is, what does your order look like with Trea Turner out? And I think what the Phillies are going to do and what I would do actually are very different here. What I think the Phillies are going to do is have Kyle Schwarber lead off. Alec Bohm is going to hit second. Harper and JT stay 3-4. I think you're probably going to see Marsh hit fifth against righties, and I think you may see Bader hit fifth against lefties, and then they'll flip-flop guys like Kepler, Sosa, Casti, Stott, depending on lefty-righty matchup. That's what I think they're going to do. But hear me out. Here's what I was thinking today as I was driving into the office. The reality is, I think you're going to see Bryson Stott play every day at second, and I think you're going to see Edmundo Sosa play every day at short. I do believe that Kyle Schwarber is going to be your leadoff hitter. It's something I advocated for at the beginning of the season. I was proven wrong. It made sense for him to hit 2 or 3 to provide some extra productivity. You see the RBI number jump. His home run totals have been off the charts. And I think between him and Harper hitting 2-3, first and foremost, they're both really good against lefties. They almost feel a little bit lefty-proof, and especially late in the game. And it gives each other a little bit of protection. We always talk about giving Harper protection, but it almost feels like Harper is giving Schwarber protection with those two guys in that spot. So I think the answer is going to be Schwarber leads off. The 2 spot is the interesting spot to me, because I think in a video game simulation where you're not thinking about real life scenarios and lefty-lefty, righty-righty matchups, especially late in the game, I think the easiest answer would be putting Bryson Stott in that spot makes a lot of sense. Or having Bryson Stott lead off to give you that speed at the top of the lineup actually makes a little bit of sense too. He has been better in the second half compared to what he was in the first half, especially after he took that slide. I don't think that that's the right move either. And it's one that probably 4 months ago I would have said that's the easy move. But the problem with that is then you're very likely going lefty, lefty, lefty at the top of the lineup. And I don't think Rob Thompson wants to do that either. So hear me out. And I think what I'm about to say is contradictory to the type of baseball fan that I am. Because you know me, when I talk about lineup construction, what I love at the top of the lineup is the ability to grind out at bats, is the ability to, after your 3 hitters are up in the first inning, that pitcher's at 15, 17, 20 pitches because your top 3 guys have really gotten after it, right? And Kyle Schwarber has been that guy all year long. He's 9th across Major League Baseball among qualified hitters with 4.21 pitches per plate appearance. That's the dude. Bryson Stott fits that bill as we just talked about, right? But I do think him being the second leadoff at the bottom spot still holds value. I like him down at the bottom of the lineup, even though we know he's consistently in the top 5 of that category and could really make a pitcher work. He and Schwarber back-to-back if you don't want to go lefty-lefty. Trea Turner, meanwhile, doesn't see nearly as much, and the number is substantial in terms of like Schwarber's 9th, Trea Turner's 111th, but it comes out to be about a half a pitch per plate appearance. Schwarber's at 4.2, Turner's at 3.7, almost 3.8. But I think on average, when you think about those two guys, Turner and Schwarber at the top of the lineup, a starting pitcher in the first inning is throwing at least 8 pitches to get through those first two guys, and you still have to deal with Bryce Harper and JT Realmuto after that point. So you know that I like to see guys that grind out at bats, make a starter throw a lot of pitches, especially in that first inning. I think those two guys, Turner and Schwarber, are a massive reason as to why the Phillies this year are 7th in terms of runs scored per first inning at about 0.6, meaning that they're scoring, 0.6 of a run every game times 140 some odd games that they've played. And they're 6th in baseball in terms of the percentage of first innings in which they've scored at least a run. They've scored a run in the first inning of 32% of their games. Trea Turner and Kyle Schwarber are a massive part of that. There's no question about it. Turner gets on, Schwarber moves him over and drives him in. Harper drives him in. It's a pretty simple formula, and it's why they're winning a lot of games, especially in the second half. But assuming that Kyle Schwarber moves to the leadoff spot, what if they went a little bit off the grid in that 2 spot? And I see a lot of people talking about Harrison Bader. It's somebody that I considered, and I think it might be somebody that I would consider against lefties. He's a spark plug guy. He's been really, really good down at the bottom of the lineup. Maybe give him a chance. But hear me out. What if we went exactly against the grain of everything I just laid out and Edmundo Sosa hit second? I get it. He whiffs a lot, 25.6%. He chases a lot, 43.6%. And among all players, not just qualified players, among all players across all of Major League Baseball, he is 516th in terms of pitches per plate appearance across the game. Now, that number includes everybody, so it's slightly skewed because you've got dudes in there with like 40 plate appearances, 25 plate appearances. So he falls somewhere between like guys that have had a cup of coffee and qualified players. But across all of Major League Baseball, he's seen the 516th most pitches per plate appearance. That is exactly the antithesis of everything that I just talked about. But it's a guy who could be a spark plug, I think, at the top of the lineup, especially against lefties. Especially when you could go lefty, righty, lefty, and have Schwarber, Sosa, Harper. It is so off the beaten path. It is so against everything that I believe in when it comes to roster construction. But what if it works? What if the guy hitting 273 this season, the guy that against righties this year is hitting well over 300? What if the guy who can continue to create problems on the base pass, and yeah, I get it, like with Schwarber leading off, there's a clog, there's no doubt about it. But what about the guy who in those spots can be a second catalyst, especially against left-handed pitching? He has 33 RBI this year. 15 of them have come against lefties. He's hitting 323 against lefties this year. He is slashing 323, 370, 515, 886 against left-handed pitching. His next at-bat against the lefty will be his 100th at-bat against the lefty. I know it's totally off the grid. I know it probably doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I know it's probably not what Rob Thompson's thinking. It's probably not what you're thinking. And in fact, if you put, us in a vacuum, probably not what I was thinking either. But I'm curious against lefties if this could be a spark that would allow all of those guys that we had mentioned, the Harrison Bader, the Bryson Stott, the Brandon Marsh, to kind of stay where they're at and be productive where they're at to help keep that bottom of the lineup running as smoothly as it possibly can. So here's what I'm thinking. To answer that question in a long-winded way, here's what I'm going with. Against lefties, I go Schwarber leading off, Sosa hits second, Harper third, JT fourth, Alec Boehm hits fifth, Brandon Marsh sixth, Bader seventh, Casti eighth, and Stott ninth. That would be the lineup against lefties. You would go lefty, righty, lefty, righty, righty, lefty, righty, righty, lefty. Now against righties, I don't have Sosa hit second. I have him hit eighth, And that's where Bohm would slide in to be the 2-hole. I would go Schwarber, Bohm, Harper, JT, Marsh, Bader, Kepler, Sosa, Stott. And with that lineup there, you go lefty, righty, lefty, righty, lefty, righty, lefty, righty, lefty. That would be the way that I would go. And I would allow Sosa to continue to be productive against lefties, kind of bury him a little bit in the lineup against righties, and see where we can go from there. And this is going to be mix and match, plug and play. This is not going to be finite every single game. I don't think it's going to be the same from game to game, from series to series. And I think you're going to see Rob Thompson toy with a bunch of stuff over the next series against the Mets, in the series against the Royals, and until Trea Turner comes back. But I think you got to get creative at this point. You just lost the guy who maybe outside of Kyle Schwarber was the most important player to your lineup this year. And it could be for a week. It could be 10 days, and we may be overreacting, and that would be great. I think that would be awesome. If that's the best case scenario and he's out for a week or 10 days and he's back by the midway point next week and you're clicking on all cylinders by the time the postseason rolls around, that's awesome. But in the scenario in which is the worst case, which could be the fact that you may see him out for a long stretch of time, or maybe 80% or 70% of what he is, you're going to have to get creative. And I think mixing and matching against your opponent would be the best way to go about it. If you said Bader at 2, I can live with, I can rock with it, especially against lefties. If you say Bohm at 2, I can rock with it. I think if you move Stott to the top of the lineup, he's got to lead off, and then you're trying to figure out a way, and you're then moving Schwarber and Harper down to 3-4. And I don't know how I feel about that, because you're moving those guys away from at-bats, and I don't really want to do that if I don't have to. I think the easiest scenario is to move Schwarber up to the leadoff spot for the foreseeable future and figure out which guy against the lefty or against the righty is going to hit second. All right, that's how I would configure my lineup. How would you do it? Drop the comment down below. I've seen some in the chat already. We'll talk about them on the other side. But if you're catching up with us after the show ends, drop a comment down in the video. How would you configure this lineup without Trea Turner, at least for the next week or 10 days or whatever it might be, and specifically if this thing runs into the foreseeable future? All right, on the other side, we're going to get into the Mets series, which could potentially end up being the series of the 2025 season. And I think the Phillies, all they have to do is hold serve. We'll talk more about it on the other side. And then at the very end of the show, we're going to get into our Ace Hardware temp check, which is around Jesus Luzardo, somebody that I feel enormously confident in heading into the postseason. It's the PHLY Phillies podcast. We are brought to you by our friends over at Bet365. We broadcast live from the Xfinity Lounge here at the PHLY studios, and we'll be right back after this. All right, if you're looking for the most affordable 7-passenger SUV in all of America, Cherry Hill at Mitsubishi and cherryhillmitsubishi.com has you covered with the 2025 Mitsubishi Outlander. Take advantage of incredible APR financing, 0% for 60 months for Pennsylvania residents only. Or if you're looking to keep that per week money on the cheap, head on at home with a 2024 Mitsubishi Mirage with payments starting as low as $55 a week with zero down retail. Now, that offer is not valid with trade-in. Offer is subject to credit approval. Not all applicants may apply, but it is a crazy good deal if you're looking to keep that number down per week. Combine those offers with the best warranty in the automotive business. How about 10-year, 100,000-mile powertrain and 5-year, 60,000-mile bumper-to-bumper? Why settle for a lesser warranty that's going to put you on the hook down the line for those costly repairs? Here's what you're going to do. Stop in today, tell them PHLY sent you, and you'll get a $100 restaurant.com gift card just for taking a test drive or completing a trade appraisal. Listen, I know people buy Mitsubishis elsewhere. I just don't know why. Head on home in your new Mitsubishi today, just minutes from all bridges, or available online at 24/7 at cherryhillmitsubishi.com. All right, you know that moment, right? Having a great day. You're enjoying the last bit of the summer, and all of a sudden, you end up, you know what? I'll tell you about Shady Rays later. Let me tell you about Parks Casino. Great work, Bree. Bree producing today's show. I apologize. That's on me. Let me tell you about our friends over at Parks Casino. I'll tell you about Shady Rays in the next block. Listen, whether your favorite team wins or not, there is always a way to win on the BetParks online casino app, because you can play all of their exclusive table games, their slots, craps, poker, baccarat, online games like Cash Eruption, 88 Fortunes, and Cleopatra right in the palm of your hand. There's no need to go anywhere. How about this? Play BetParks exclusives like Huff and More Puff and Fire Blaze Sky Queen. You can do that again right on the BetParks online casino app. You can play the slots that are based on your favorite streaming shows: Walking Dead, Squid Game, Breaking Bad, Peaky Blinders, right? All of your favorite classic casino games right in the palm of your hand wherever you are. And how about this? Right now, new users get up to $1,000 casino bonus back if you are down in the first 24 hours. Head on over to betparks.com, download the app right now, and enjoy all of the action and excitement from the casino right at your fingertips. Must be 21 in PA, New Jersey, Maryland, or Michigan for BetParks. You love to play, you play to win, you bet BetParks. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, welcome back to the PHLY Phillies podcast. Tyler Zulli here. As I mentioned, Bree producing today's show. Bree, I believe you are going to be our producer for the foreseeable future, at least for the most part, I think.
I guess so.
That's what the schedule looks like. I don't know.
Yeah.
Listen, we're in flux right now because if you haven't seen...
It's crazy.
Obviously, we moved up an hour. The reason that we moved up an hour, and if you haven't seen it yet, you're in for a really good treat. At 1:30 every day, a quick hitter, 30-minute pod from 1:30 to 2 every day. Bill Matz is debuting Philadelphia this afternoon. Coming up in just a little bit, Bill Matz will be doing all of Bill's antics, right? We'll go around Philadelphia sports. We're going to talk Eagles, Flyers, Sixers, Phillies, a little bit of Union. We'll get into the head of Bill Matz, which is a great place to be, and sometimes it is an incredibly wild place to be. We'll talk WWE. We'll talk movies. We'll have fun. It's going to be a great time. Whatever's in the head of Bill Matz, that's what we'll do. It'll be Bill and myself starting at 1:30 right here on the PHLY, right here on PHLY. Really excited. Again, check out Philadelphia at 1:30 beginning today. All right. Welcome back to the PHLY Phillies podcast. And yeah, Bree, I know I put you on the spot there. I apologize.
No, you're good.
We're in flux production-wise. So I think it's you for the foreseeable future, meaning today and Wednesday.
I'm here.
After that, I don't know. I don't know what the plan is after that, but it's going to be Bree and I at least for the next 2 shows.
All good.
We'll reevaluate after that.
You're fine.
All right, let's get into this series coming up against the Mets. So the Phillies are up 7 games on the Mets now with 19 games left to play. That is a really great place to be. Now, if it feels like that is a number that is closing in on like giving you chills down your spine, well, I get it, right? The Phillies were down 7 with 17 to play against the Mets in 2007 and proceeded to end up winning the division and taking home the NL East crown. And we won't talk about what happened against the Rockies, but they were 7 down with 17 to play, had a monumental collapse by the Mets and an unbelievable run by the Phillies to end the season. I'm going to tell you this right now. And this isn't me, boasting or beating my chest or trying to be Mr. Hot take here or anything like that. The Phillies aren't letting that happen. The Phillies are not going to play that poor, that sub 500 ball, even without Trea Turner, for the remainder of the season. The Phillies are going to win the National League East. The only scenario in which I start to sweat is if the Mets sweep the Phillies in this 4-game series. And I don't think they're going to. Now, I was very chesty the last time the Phillies played the Mets. And I said, man, if the Phillies take 2 out of 3, that's a bury scenario, right? And they didn't. They didn't do that. They got swept out of New York. The Mets cut the lead from 7 to 4. But since that time, the Mets have only gone 4-6. They lost the series against the Reds. They were good against the Tigers, but they've only been 4-6 since the Phillies and the Mets played. If they went 6-4, like for example, if they would have held on to beat the Mets a couple nights ago, if they would have come back and beat the Reds, if they'd have beaten the Reds yesterday, if they could have beaten the Marlins more than they did, if they had gone 6-4 and it was a 5-game lead, I think there would be a little bit more palpitation in my heart. There'd be a little bit more pause. But I think this 7-game lead is safe. And I think at this point, I'm not getting chesty with this series. I'm not getting overly aggressive. I am just going to sit here and tell you, I think the Phillies have to hold serve, and split this series. If the Phillies win 2 of these 4 games, they still will be up 7 games to play with just 15 remaining. And what that would do is that if the Phillies only went 7-8 the rest of the way, played 1 game below 500 against the Royals, Dodgers, Diamondbacks, Marlins, and Twins, which I don't think is the case. If they just went 7-8, the Mets would have to go 14-1 in their final 15 games to win the division. The Mets hold the tiebreaker over the Phillies. They are 7-2 this season, and even if the Phillies sweep out the series, they would only be 7-6. But if the Phillies find a way to go 2-2 in this series, the Mets would then have to go 14-1 if the Phillies just go 7-8. Even if the Phillies go 5-10 in their final 15 games, the Mets would still have to go 12-3. It would have to be like a 1964 level collapse for the Phillies to lose the division at this point if they win 2 out of 4 against the Phillies, or against the Mets, excuse me. If they win 3, this division's locked. Then I will get chesty. Then I will I'll say it with my chest. The Phillies are going to run away with the division, and they may end up with the largest division lead in all of baseball. It's them. It's going to be them or the Tigers. But I think if they win 2, that is enough. That's all I need. Stranger things have happened, no question about it. I just brought up 2007. It was a thing that happened. In 2007, the Rockies won 27 of their last 29 games or something absurd to get into the postseason, to beat the Padres in a game 163. Matt Holliday, you still didn't touch the plate, by the way. You're still out. I'm not bitter. Phillies would have beaten the Padres that year. I'm not bitter. Anyway, crazy things have happened, right? But I think in this case, in this scenario, a split is good enough for me. I get it, right? Provolone John, I understand, right? The Negadelphia Philadelphia fan says, don't count the chickens until they hatch, or whatever that saying is, right? I don't remember exactly what it is. But you know what I mean? I get it, right? I was at a Super Bowl party where it was what was it, 34-0, I think, at one point. And people are like, oh, the game's not over. And you're like, dude, yes, it is. I get it. We're Philadelphia fans. We are exclusively live in the negative headspace because it's the only way that we've been raised to live with our teams. And I get it. Don't put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby. I totally understand it. But my point is, it would be mathematically, I'm not going to say impossible, but I will say improbable if the Phillies find a way to split this series for the Mets to win the division. It's not out of the question, but the percentage will go up substantially. They'll be 7 up with 15 to play. And at that point, play 500 ball. At that point, go 2-4 on the road trip against the Dodgers. Come home, take 2 out of 3 against the Marlins. You're then 4-7, right? Take 2 out of 3 against the Twins, and then you're 6-8, or whatever the math comes out to be. Just hold serve. That's all you got to do at that point. And I get it, right? You're still chasing the 2 seed, and the Dodgers aren't eliminated, and that's a different conversation. That you still want to play to, no doubt about it. Don't take your foot off the gas. But in terms of winning the division, a split in this series, I would be ready to call it if there's a split in this series. If they win 3 out of 4, I'm saying it with my chest. If they sweep, I'm screaming it from the PHLY studio rooftops. I think I'm some crazy guy up there. All right, let's take a look at the probable pitching matchups really quickly before we get out of this segment. Tonight, it is going to be a difficult one. You might be behind the 8 ball after a game. Nolan McLean has been incredible since being called up for the Mets. He's 4-0 with a 1.37 ERA, and Aaron Nola has not pitched well this year. It's 3-8 with a near 7 ERA. The Mets are going to be favored tonight, and I think they probably should be favored tonight because Aaron Nola has not pitched well. Tomorrow, I think that swings back in your direction. Minaya hasn't pitched a ton this year. Minaya has been very good against the Phillies in the last couple of seasons, but Ranger Suarez takes the mound. Another really good start for him. His last time out, his ERA back under 3. Then you get Christopher Sanchez, the guy that's probably your ace of the staff this year now that Zach Wheeler is done. Clay Holmes has been very good, but if you can keep Clay Holmes to 5 innings or less, you're in a good spot. And then now it's TBD, quote unquote. It's going to be Jesus Luzardo unless they make some kind of crazy decision that Walker Buehler is going to get the start there. I don't think he will, but I think it's going to be Luzardo. We're going to talk about him in just a little bit. That 4.01 ERA looks high, but I'll tell you why it's not as bad as it looks on the other side. David Peterson's been very good and has killed the Phillies over the years as well. That, to me, looks like it can be split. And if you split, I'm good with it. And that's all I can ask for. And that's the probable pitching matchup for this week. You got 4 against the Mets. You have 4 against the Mets Monday through Thursday, and you've got 3 against the Dodgers Monday through Wednesday next week. Those 7 games of your last 19 are the important games. If you hold serve against the Marlins, against the Twins, against the Diamondbacks, against the Royals, those 7 games will dictate if you're the 2 seed or not. And I think they're going to be. I think they're going to be the 2 seed. I think they're going to get the bye. And I think then we'll reevaluate the situation at hand in the NLDS. Are you going to have to play the Mets? Are you going to have to play the Dodgers? Can you play the Cubs or the Padres? Like, you're going to play a good team. They're all playoff teams at this point. But you do get the advantage of games 1 and 2 in the DS at Citizens Bank Park, of Christopher Sanchez and Ranger Suarez starting game 1 and 2 versus a 3 and a 4, or, even if it's a 3 and a 1 wraparound, you still have the advantage. I think if the Phillies win 2 out of 4 this week, I'm ready to say they're going to win. They're winning the division. And that is we'll take a look at this series. On the other side of it, we're going to very quickly get into our Ace Hardware Temp Check segment surrounding Jesus Luzardo. We've got a little bit more to go before we turn things over to Philadelphia at 1:30 here at PHLY for the debut of that show. It is the PHLY Phillies podcast. We're brought to you by our friends over at Bet365. We are broadcasting live from the Xfinity Lounge here at the PHLY studios. We'll be right back after this. All right, now let me tell you about Shady Rays because I was so excited I almost did it earlier. I love my Shady Rays, but you know that day. You're enjoying the last little bit of summer. You're trying to squeeze the last little bit of warm weather out. You're at the beach, the boardwalk, the pool, the amusement park, or you're just filling up from a road trip. You're filling up at the gas station. You forgot your sunglasses. Where are they? On the roof of your car? Not anymore. On your head in the ocean? Nope, they belong to a fish now. They're gone. But the beautiful thing about Shady Rays is they have your back. The best protection plan in all of eyewear. All of their eyewear, all of their sunglasses are brought to you by a lost or broken replacement guarantee, so you can enjoy your summer or what's left of it with confidence. Go to the boardwalk, go to that concert, enjoy the amusement park, enjoy the beach without having to worry about, if I lose my sunglasses, I got to go buy a new pair. Shady Rays wants to work with you. They're durable. They're crystal clear optics. They're good looking, and of course, they're not crazy expensive either. So, again, when you wear your eyewear, do it without fear. Shady Rays is the eyewear company that has your back, and we've teamed up with Shady Rays to bring you an exclusive offer. Head on over to shadyrays.com, use the promo code PHLY for 35% off a pair of polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades that are rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. All right, welcome back to the PHLY Phillies podcast. Tyler Zulli here as we're just about to wrap up today on the PHLY Phillies pod. We're going to get into our Ace Hardware Temp Check segment, which is brought to you by our friends over at Ace Hardware and Ace Hardware Home Services. Head on over to acehardwarehomeservices.com to get started on your next project today. And the player that I am looking at as heating up for our Ace Hardware Temp Check and the guy that I am really excited about come postseason time is Jesus Luzardo. Now, I have talked about Luzardo a lot this year. The struggles in May and June were documented. 12 earned runs against the Blue Jays, or against the Brewers, 8 earned runs against the Blue Jays. There's no question about it that Jesus Luzardo hit a serious, it wasn't a bump in the road, it was like a roadblock. He hit a brick wall in the later portions of May and into June. I think he's recovered nicely, though, and has pitched well for a majority of the season. And in fact, if you take those 2 starts, now I get it. You can't take starts out of the equation. Your numbers are what you are. Like, right? The ball don't lie. Numbers say who they are, who we thought they are, whatever cliche you want to use. But those 2 starts were so bad that it makes Jesus Luzardo feel like he's having a worse season than he actually is. Because again, you look at a 4.01 ERA, it's nothing to write home about. That's a 3rd starter, a 4th starter. It's fine. But those 2 starts, 20 of his 72 earned runs came in those 2 starts. Find me another starting pitcher who is about to make his 30th start of the year, where 28% of his earned runs that he's given up in an entire season have come in 2 starts. I promise you can't do it. Maybe a guy who's made 4 or 5, but not for 30 starts. Jesus Luzardo has made 29 starts this year. The start that he's presumably going to make on either Thursday or Friday will be his 30th start of the season. Those 2 starts were so horrendously bad that everything else looks bad. Feels like he's not tipping his pitches anymore. Feels like he's attacking the zone. He's going back to that guy that was using sweeper against the lefty, slider against the righty, was just he's able to pound the zone with the fastball. Command's been much better. His walk numbers have come down over his last couple of starts, with the exception, of course, against the Marlins this past weekend. He did walk 4, but he has 3 or less walks in every start in August. He hasn't had 4 walks in a start before this past weekend since July 23rd. But you can see, like, when he pounds the strike zone and throws a good percentage of his pitches for strikes, he gets deep into games. He's given you 6. He's given you 6 2/3. He's getting into the 7th pretty consistently. And in fact, here are Jesus Luzardo's numbers for the entirety of the season. If you take those 2 starts out of the equation, he's a much different pitcher. He's thrown 161 and 2/3 innings. He still is on pace for well over 200 strikeouts. He's going to get there. The Phillies, before Zach Wheeler was shut down for the season, were on pace for 3 starting pitchers to get to 200 strikeouts. That's nuts to me. Luzardo is going to crack that. Sanchez probably will get there. The walks, yes, at times they get concerning. When his command falters, that's where you see him get into trouble because he has to pitch back into the zone, right? The whip is at 1.3 because of the hits allowed at 153, but when he's on and you can see him limit the walks, he's a much different pitcher. But that number at the bottom there tells you why I have confidence in him. In his 29 starts this year, he has 17 in which he's gone at least 6 innings pitched and he's gone given up 3 earned runs or fewer. 17 of 29 have fit that criteria. To take it a step further, if you take out those 20 earned runs that you've given up that we talked about, over 27 starts this year, he's pitched to a 3.01 ERA over 155 innings. It's literally an entire earned run different based on just 2 starts. It changes the entire complexity of his season. He goes from a guy who's been okay numerically to a guy who's been incredible numerically. If you take out those 2 starts, he still has 184 strikeouts in 155 innings pitched. That's 1.19 strikeouts per innings pitched. His whip, if you take out those 2 games, 183 base runners in 184 innings. It's a sub-1 whip outside of just 2 starts. We're not talking about 5, 6, 7. We're talking about literally 2 starts that have damned his season numbers across the board. That's how good Jesus Luzardo has been for almost the entire year. I've said this routinely. I think Jesus Luzardo's had 5 bad starts all year. And I can break it down into 3 bad and 2 horrendous. But I think of the other 24 starts, I'd say 22 of them were good plus. And you can see by that number, 17 have been quality outings. That to me is enough for a guy that I can trust into the postseason. He's a guy who, yes, his floor might be a little bit lower. And it's why I would go Sanchez, Ranger, Luzardo. But when he's on, that ceiling is enormous. The strikeout numbers, you saw them on over this past weekend. And yeah, I get it, right? He walked 4 guys. He gave up 2 earned runs. 8 strikeouts over 6. Over the last, basically the entirety of the season. Let's just go back really quickly. We'll do this on the fly. Strikeout games of 7 or more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 starts of 7 or more strikeouts. The stuff is legit. The sweeper's nasty. The slider is that tight like gyro spiral. Slider doesn't have a ton of movement, but it's late breaker and it's heavy. And he uses that against the righties. But the sweeper against the lefties is nasty. And that power fastball changeup combo against the righties is just as good when it's on. When this guy's on and all 4 pitches are working, he becomes nearly unhittable. Again, the ceiling and the floor have a pretty large gap. The floor can be questionable at times, but I think the ceiling is enormous. And that's why heading into the postseason, and yeah, I know you got to go lefty, 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 and that sucks. But it's 3 lefties that I feel good. I feel great about Sanchez. I feel really good about Ranger. And I feel good about Jesus Luzardo. Find me another starting rotation that has lost its best pitcher, and you can still say that. Think about it, right? Think about some of the teams heading into the postseason and where they would be without their ace. How good would their rotation stack up? What happens if Matthew Boyd were unavailable to pitch in the postseason for the Cubs? Wouldn't love that, right? I still like Imanaga, and Cade Horton's been good, but after that, you've got to go to Tyone or whomever, and you don't want that, right? I think about the Dodgers. They've had a slew of injuries. Yoshinobu Yamamoto's been great pretty much all year. What happens if he were not able to pitch? That would be a detriment to them, right? I don't know what the Mets are going to do, right? They might start 3 rookies in the postseason, but my point is, like, if they lose David Peterson, that sucks for them. Find a team whose starter, their ace of their staff, went down and is going to miss the postseason, and you still feel good about 3 starters. That's why you still should feel confident about the Phillies heading into the postseason. Yeah, losing Wheeler is a huge blow. Trea Turner, if he's out for a foreseeable amount of time, big blow. But this team can still win based on its starting pitching and the back end of its bullpen being as good as you hope it is. And if you score 4 runs, score 5 runs on a night, you're going to win more times than not with those 3 guys. All right, that's our Ace Hardware Temp Check segment, as it's brought to you by our friends over at Ace Hardware Home Services, where we check in on who's heating up or who's cooling down. And you can head on over to acehardwarehomeservices.com to get started on your next project today. And that's about all we're going to have time for, because we got to get ready for our debut of Philadelphia as we get set for it at 1:30. So big thanks to everybody in the chat today. Futz, Ray Schumacher, Peter Tom Willis, Jada Moraine, Molly and Barkley's Life, K-Red, who was here earlier, Elephant in the Room, John Peace. If I missed you, I'm sorry. Thank you for being a part of today's show. I really appreciate it. And yeah, Futz, like, they legitimately might go 3 rookies. Like, you may see McLean, Tonga, Sproat, excuse me. They're probably not, but they could, right? You'll get Peterson mixed in there. You'll probably see Minaya eat some innings. But yeah, totally understand. Really appreciate you all. Provolone John, didn't get a chance to say thanks to you. Really appreciate it. And of course, a big thank you to everybody in the chat, but a larger thank you to Bree Savarino for producing today's show. Bree, really appreciate you. You're the best as always. I know you got to get ready for the Sixers show, so we're going to get out of here. By the way, moving forward, we will be here at 12 o'clock every day. So next show will be Wednesday at 12 noon, and we'll be that way at least through the remainder of the regular season and into the postseason. We will have post-game shows every night in the postseason for every game, but on the regular days, 12 o'clock noon is our new show. Stick around. Coming up in a half an hour, Philadelphia at 1:30, PHLY Eagles at 2, PHLY Sixers at 3. A lot left to go here today on PHLY. We'll talk to you on Wednesday at noon right here on the PHLY Phillies podcast.
We all silly like the mayor.